Welcome to Kentucky Horsepower, the official podcast of the Kentucky Automobile Dealers Association. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Kentucky Horsepower, the official podcast of KADA. And I am your host today, Jason Wilson, president of KADA. And joining me today, excuse me, is our new chairman for 2026, ready to roll, Mr. Ed Hyde. Ed, thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to be with you here. You know, you've been on the exec committee a few years now, and you've been involved with KDA, but now now you have the chairman's chair. You're following our past Grand Poobah, Rob Marshall, who did a great job. And I have to say, this is my sixth General Assembly session now, which is wild to think about, and really have enjoyed working with each of your predecessors today. Everyone has bring something a little new, a little bit different, a different perspective, but ultimately it's about moving things forward for KDA and ultimately the dealers throughout Kentucky. But let's talk a little bit about, let's let our folks who don't know Ed Hyde, let's start with kind of who you are. And look, I'm going to start by saying Ed and I both served in the Marine Corps, so we're fellow jarheads. So hopefully that works out good this session. We'll see. It'll either, I have high hopes that if nothing else, I know we'll be tenacious, right?
That's right. We'll dig our heels in. But yeah, we've got some big shoes to fill with my predecessors. But I'm looking forward to the challenge. And with your leadership, I think everything's going to be great, continue to be great, and get better.
Yep, we're going to just keep doing our thing here, and again, just working to advance the cause of the dealers. But for our folks watching, let's talk a little bit. You know, you were a young Marine, obviously, get out of the Marine Corps, and then you found yourself into getting involved in the auto business. We'll talk about that, what that transition looked like, and sort of how you got to the point where you are today, and the stores you own, et cetera.
Okay. Yeah. So out of the Marine Corps, I did a little bit of college and got a little background there, which has proved very helpful in my career. I was studying accounting, but anyway, like all young broke people, at least I was, so I went to get a job. So I went to Man of War Ford, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who remember that. It's the Hayde is part of the Hayes organization out of Louisville, and it was a store they had in town, and it was so I got a job there in sales, and that worked out good for me. I really enjoyed it and decided to make a career out of it. Then I really had a kid and I moved back to Southeast Kentucky. So when I did that, I got a job at Tincher Williams selling cars, and then started doing finance there, and then branched out on my own. I got a used car lot, and shortly after that, I bought a Nissan store from Mr. Jack Kane. That's been back since 2000. So I've been in the business about 31 years now. I think I was figuring, so 94 started, and Nissan store we did pretty good with it. And we're still going in London. And after about 16 years of just doing that, focusing on that, an opportunity came up to buy a Ford and Chevy store in Corbin. So, which is just 10 miles down the road from it. So it worked out really good. So went ahead and added that to our group. And then in 23 or maybe 24, I have to go back and look, we added Tincher Williams to the group. So it's still operating under Tincher Williams nameplate, and the guys are doing great. And it's been operated by the same people for 30 plus years. And Mr. Tincher passed away, and we got the chance to buy that. So we took it, we went ahead and ran with that one. It's going good, and that's really the Reader's Digest version of what I'm doing. Yeah, but it fast forward 30 years, and now we've got 4 rooftops and body shop and just little stuff like that.
Yeah, it's funny. I can absolutely, the timing of you and I in the industry, how we got into it's so similar. Because my story is very much the same way. I got out of the Marine Corps. I was going to college. Was going to the local community college in Richmond, Virginia. Wasn't sure what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I just ran out of money. And the Marine Corps wasn't with the branch that gave you all the money for college, as you recall. I mean, you got the GI Bill, and that was it. And I think about the time you and I were going to school, it worked out to be a whopping $400 a month if you were in school full time. And I said, gosh, I can't just keep doing this. I was getting tired of the ramen noodles, and I went to the Honda store where I bought my first new car when I got out of the Marine Corps, and I liked like a lot of young 20 somethings. I liked the Hondas, and I had so I went by and was like, hey, how about I get a job here, maybe sell these things, and
Yeah.
that was that was kind of it. It's
Looking,
what it
no
took.
looking back, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Can't stretch a GI Bill very far if you want to try to eat good. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
that's
I mean, I
exactly
think
right.
we were in the Marines about at the same time, I think.
Yeah, I
During
think so. It was like late 80s, early
Correct.
90s
Yeah.
uh, time frame. But it just goes to show about this industry, and you and I have both benefited greatly from the automotive industry, and really has laid out sort of our careers. It just goes to show that this is still one of those places, meaning the automotive industry as a whole, where you put your head down, you go to work, and anything's possible. As I can't speak for you, but as a young Marine myself who barely got out of high school and then found a pathway in the Marine Corps to kind of set me, up, so to speak, and give me some basic things to take through life. It's amazing how that's translated into an industry where you just have to work hard, and every day is a hustle. You can't, this is not an industry you rest on your laurels, right?
That's right. At least that's what might have been my experience with it. Met a lot of great people over the years in this business, so I feel blessed to got to know a lot of good car people,
Yeah.
and still working around a lot of good people. So it's pretty awesome. But yeah, it's just get up every day and do it again, right?
That's right. That's right. While the industry has changed a lot in the last 30 years, a lot of it's still very similar though. We're still selling vehicles. You still have to do proper demos. You still have to provide a great customer experience. But with all that being said, as you look back in your time and now as putting on the Grand Poobah hat as chairman of KADA, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges right now from your perspective in the industry? The things, if there are things that keep you up at night regarding this, what does that look like to you right now?
Yeah, there's not any one thing I think that just stresses me out. But I will say this: we've got to just be nimble and be willing to go where the customer is. And I mean, we're all reluctant, or at least myself. I remember I got a website in '97. I had a used car lot, and I had a website. I wasn't sure why I had a website, but I thought, well,
Right.
I mean, I feel like I need it. I'm not sure why. And then turns
Yeah.
out, this many years later, it is, it's invaluable. And then we got all this multi-channel stuff, and you need to be able to do that, provide that. I think, that's at least my perspective on it. So you got to provide what the customer's looking for, but at the end of the day, end up back in the showroom. So you got to give them exceptional customer service. So I think that we've got a great group of dealers in the state, and we're all customer focused, and it's a
Yeah.
big
Very much
benefit.
so.
So it's good. EVs had me a little bit stressed out, but um, I'm not opposed to EV in any shape, form, or fashion. But I think that we've got to just kind of let the market come to that. At some point there'll be a different powertrain, I'm sure. I think when we were trying, but I think we're in a good place right now.
Yeah,
Feels
and
like
that's
it kind of set where it belongs.
Yep. And that's a really good point. I mean, and it goes to show what a difference uh, one administration is from another, from the standpoint of we look at just what happens as we're entering, the first year of the President Trump's second term. We were coming off the President Biden's administration, where it was huge emphasis on EVs, EV mandates, all those things. And in our state, where we're hovering around 1.5%, 2% EV penetration, largely due to no infrastructure, it just wasn't making sense. So like you, I feel like the market is somewhat correcting itself here to be more uh, customer influenced and based versus, having that dictated to consumers as far as what they're supposed to drive.
Yeah, I think that it'll naturally take care of itself at some point. So listen, I'm driving an EV right now, Jason. So
Sure.
I have to make sure I got to educate myself on because it's gonna be some part of our market. So I'm
Absolutely.
at that time just to drive it because I can at least talk about it and I know what I'm talking about and I know the ups and downs to all of it, or at least from my perspective, that's all I can offer. But yeah, I think let it kind of naturally go where it goes, that's a better spot for all of us.
Yep. Well, one of the things that we're going to work on this session, and you've been involved since we've started talking about this, as was your predecessor, Rob Marshall. One of the things we've been looking at is looking at our warranty reimbursement statutes and what that's going to look like. And you and I have talked about some of the challenges that you deal with, and really our industry as a whole. But in talking about that from your perspective, why is that so important to really be talked about and addressed these days and try and improve and strengthen this?
So I think from a larger picture, and probably the most important piece of that is making sure that the technicians are taken care of and
Right.
getting paid for the time they're spending doing warranty repair. They spend a lot of time, and as dealers, we spend a lot of time and money getting them trained to where they need to be, and then it's a job that they may not necessarily even want to do because it's the pay structure is not there for them. So we're having to make kind of trying to have special pay plans and that sort of thing. I just think it needs to be fair, but if we approach it from the technician's perspective, I think that it'll work out for the dealers because they'll be happier. They'll get the money they're due is the way I look at it. Because a lot of these guys, the more educated they get, the better they get, the harder the jobs, and the lower they pay.
Right.
So it's like that makes no sense. So I think as long as we take an approach to that, because it's not necessarily, and ultimately is a dealer problem, but it's a bigger problem for the technicians, I think, which then creates a bigger problem for us trying to keep techs coming, because we all have a shortage of techs, I think,
Right.
these days. We had the luxury of not having a tech shortage for years in the southeast, where at least where we're located. So there's a lot of people coming through wanting to be technicians, and now it's becoming a little more of a challenge. It's not as hard here probably as some other people are experiencing, but I think we got to right size the compensation, and it's got to be. So we're compensating techs the correct way. We need to make sure the factory, and I don't think we need to come at them, by any stretch. I think they, come at from a fair perspective, and let's get everybody. Let's make it benefit everybody. Ultimately, it benefits the customer, and that's what
right.
matters.
Well, and look, and that is the point. I mean, whether it's recalls, whether it's warranty work, you all are on the front line having to make those appointments and get those vehicles running properly and ensuring that they're safe, roadworthy, all the things. Um,
Yeah.
so, that is really the perspective we're going to go at it from, folks. And there'll be lots more on this as things progress, but we are really framing this as a technician-based bill in that we want to ensure that the folks that are so important to our industry and to our overall safety are well compensated for this and done so. So again, more to follow on that. We'll keep discussing that and bring you up to speed. We have meetings starting on this as early as next week, so we'll see what we're able to piece together. And before I let you go, tell us a little bit about your family and who's involved in the business or not involved in the business and ages and all of those things.
Listen, this is definitely a family run business, I would say. And I've got a lot of people from outside, good, solid people outside of the family. But I've got one son still in high school, and I think he thinks he wants to kind of get into this. So
Okay.
I'm discouraging, but nah, listen, this business has been so good to me, and I'm pleased to have any of my family I can get. But so my sister's the marketing communications director. My brother-in-law is general sales manager at the Chevy store in Corbin.
Okay.
I've got one of my sons is a used car manager. The other one is over. We do vehicle wraps and window tint and detail shop. So he's doing
Okay.
that and some good things. My wife's a controller. In the business and outside. But
She'll appreciate you saying that, I'm sure.
Well, listen, you got to just admit it. I don't like making decisions. It's easy to have somebody in control of me. It's better.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah. So she does a phenomenal job as well. But it's great. I mean, I've got my stepbrother is the general sales manager of the golf cart. We got a golf cart store too. Forgot to say that. We sell club car. Let me plug that. But
Yeah.
so I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out, honestly. it's just we got a lot of family here, and it's good to know. We're all kind of looking after each other.
Yeah, well, it definitely helps for sure, and to have that support network, and again, with all the things that dealers face these days coming at them, nothing better than having family around to help deal with those challenges and everything firsthand. Um,
Yeah.
what about hobbies, things like that? What are some things you're into?
Listen,
You're good
I
at the
picked up
store.
so I picked up bass fishing. Gosh, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. So my now 18 years old, but he really likes fish. So I thought, well, what a great way we can spend some time together. Well, since
Sure.
then, he's kind of gotten out of it, and I'm knee deep into this thing. And it's like I got golf clubs, but I don't golf. I don't have time to golf, and
Right.
true, I had a lot of time for fishing lately. But that's one of my big. That's probably in my spare time. I can at least run to the lake for a couple of hours in the evening,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But it's been interesting. That's my probably my main hobby. Other than that, work
Yeah.
dealerships are my main hobby. I would say I take a lot of pleasure in this. I like it. I think you gotta like it.
Yeah, you have to.
Much much time as it takes, but yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I think
Yeah,
most of the dealers that I've gotten to know through the years and talked to, yeah, they do have the other outside interests, whether it's fishing, hunting, sports, golf, whatever it might be. But the core that everything runs through, and the main thing is the main thing, and that's running the dealerships and ensuring that everyone's moving forward and growing.
yeah,
Let me get your thoughts on this. One of the things that we haven't seen a lot of in Kentucky yet, but I'm sure it's coming. We have about 232 franchise rooftops throughout the state, and there are some larger operators, but we haven't quite seen the consolidation here yet, like we've seen in some other states, where you have the Publix and some of these really large groups coming in and buying stores up. What are your thoughts on consolidation? And I know you're actually growing, you're looking at buying stores, that sort of thing, but what are your thoughts
yeah.
on that? Where do you see that going?
I think as time goes on, you're probably going to see more and more multi rooftop franchises. But I still think single point operators can be highly successful, and they bring a lot to the game, in my opinion. But they're in a unique perspective because I was a single point operator for most of
Sure.
my career, and it seems like I could probably provide I could do a better job for the people I'm working around, and necessarily, but in that, I think long term we're probably going to see more and more of it, and the publics come in. I have no problem with that. I mean, it's look, healthy competition there's nothing wrong with that. I think I've got a lot of friends that are dealers, and I want to. And if there's a customer shopping them against, I want to sell that car. We're still good friends. It's all right.
That's
I
right.
lose, I get some,
That's right.
But today we're all just trying to get our unfair share, I guess, if you will. And as long as we can do that, provide the service that customers need, and make sure that we can take care of the people that are taking care of us, from employees, I think
Yep.
it's a big. And more jobs in Kentucky, the better. I say.
Right.
I'd rather listen if I could pick. I'd rather have a local dealer consolidate with multiple rooftops other than some publicly traded company. I think that's better for everybody involved. But I mean, how do you pick winners and losers on that?
Well, that's right, and that's a great point. I mean, look, one of the things that I feel that's unique with Kentucky is, yes, we do have some larger cities, but by and large, we are spread out throughout the state, smaller communities that dealers have a real impact both in the community from a job standpoint and being able to provide those good jobs, as well as servicing the consumer and selling their vehicles and all that. So I feel like we're a little unique versus some other states that have the big mega cities and a little heavier populated. I feel like the dealer here still has deep ties, and to your point, are also very friendly because it's not a huge group of folks. I mean, our dealers tend to get along pretty well with each other, which is not the same in every state, I can tell you.
Well, I'm glad I'm in Kentucky, but so yeah, and as a smaller dealers or not in these larger cities, we're more a part of the community, I guess.
Yep.
So we're back. We got little league teams, and we sponsor the basketball and all the local sports. So we're doing more. I don't know. I can't speak to it, but I don't know that these public trade. They probably don't have budget for that. So I think in that respect, it might not be as beneficial to the community from that perspective. But
Right.
yeah, but that's the thing. I got a 4-store group Southeast Kentucky. I promise you, Lithia's not going to try to buy me.
Right.
I'm not selling anyway, but I'm just saying.
Right.
So that's the thing in the more fringe markets. I think you won't see any of that. I'd be very surprised.
Well, and the other thing you made mention of earlier too is that next generation. You talk about your high school age son that is kind of warming up to the idea of getting in this business and what's involved, and that's a big part of keeping that longevity and keeping things moving forward. Because if you don't have that or that next person sort of in mind, it does make it really difficult. How do you continue on, right?
That's true. I hope they do want to. So I got a daughter that's a school teacher in the Nashville area, in Clarksville, Tennessee, and then I got my other son, the one that moved me back and got me in the car business when he was born, actually. So he is in the culinary. He went to culinary school and that sort of thing. He has no interest. In fact, I talk to him all the time, like he's great parts, and I can't get him back.
Yeah.
But that kind of thing. But yeah, so I'm first generation. We'll see what the future holds for us in
Right.
my family. But yeah, I'm kind of anxious though, and hopeful they'll all kind of take a bigger interest in it at some point.
Yep. Well, look, the one thing about this industry is it's ever changing. It's never a dull moment, and there's always going to be opportunities. And I appreciate you spending some time with us, telling us a little bit about your journey, how you got into the business, and uh, what you see kind of moving forward. And we look forward to having you as our chair this year, and what we hope to be a big successful year again in Kentucky, both legislatively and for all of the dealers throughout the state.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to next year. I hope I do a good job.
I'm sure you will. Hey, Ed, thanks
We'll
for
have to
being here,
find
and
out.
we appreciate you. And for all those either listening or watching, we appreciate you being part of Kentucky Horsepower, the official podcast of KADA, and we will see you down the road.